You're listening to Clever Entrepreneurship. I'm Eva Maria Foltz.
And I'm Laura Morris, and today we have a wonderful special guest for everybody. We have Reed McDowell. He is our SEO expert, and he's going to teach us all about the different ways that SEO impacts your small business. Thank you for joining us today. Can you please start off by kind of telling us about yourself and your business?
Well, I've been a digital strategist for the last 10 years, where basically I take a little bit of web design coupled with a lot of OCD when it comes to SEO and, of course, web development, and kind of molded this whole little environment.
So could you start by telling us what exactly SEO is? What does it stand for? Why does it matter?
SEO stands for search engine optimization. It is a digital strategy focused on getting your website on the top of Google, Bing, Yahoo, all of these different search engines on the internet.
So trying to get to that prime spot so everyone can find you. So
Yes.
it's really about making it so that you're more visible on the internet in a sort of
Definitely.
way. Okay, cool. Which everybody wants, because internet's kind of king right now when it comes to finding small businesses or businesses in general. So being more visible is really what everyone's hunting for.
I think a common misconception is if you make a website, then you'll appear on Google. Can you just kind of dispel that, make it make sense for us?
When it comes down to a website, think of it more like a box you are trying to fill. When you start off with that website, it's pretty empty. It doesn't have a lot of content. You're not really, your focal point may talk about your services, and it may talk about when you started the business, that kind of thing. But in order to truly be seen by these search engines, you have to have enough things in that box in order to be relevant towards these robots that are scanning your website, but also being appealing enough for a human looking at the website to understand what you're all about.
Okay, that makes sense. So it takes a lot of work to run a website, would you say?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today, the basics, and Reed is going to actually give us some starting points for SEO and talk a little bit about the overwhelming, it can be very overwhelming. So we're going to talk a little bit about where you can start, and then maybe potentially you might decide you want to seek professional help, because that's what I did, because it's a lot. It's really like a whole other job, which is why Reed exists. Okay, so we're going to talk about technical SEO, which I guess, can you tell us how that's like different than just SEO in general? And what are like the most common technical issues that you would encounter and that you often have to address?
So a general SEO campaign in its most common base is coupled with technical, local, and other SEO strategies. When it comes down to technical SEO versus your general overall campaign, it is actually based off of your website internally and production-wise, performance-wise. So basically, to make your website function as well as it possibly can, with making it as easy to crawl as possible, meaning those robots are going through your website and they need to see the right relevant content without having a whole bunch of different obstacles in their path. That is really what SEO, technical SEO, is all about. Making sure you're representing yourself logically and accurately.
So when it comes to using SEO to target locally, do you have to kind of adjust what you're doing in order to find your local demographics as opposed to just a broad type of SEO approach?
So, yes, you most definitely want to be very specific. Having areas of service, for one, would be a very good way of showcasing your local SEO. So all of the service areas, let's say you're in Augusta and you service Martinez, you service Evans, you may even go all the way up to North Augusta, but you having those service pages will actually help your local SEO more than just having blogs specific to those areas.
Okay.
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe how often I visit a website not knowing a whole lot about SEO, and they don't even have their location on the website. And it's like, how do you expect people to know where you are? People aren't going to like search for you. They're trying to find what's convenient, which is why Google exists, right? So if you have a website, I guess the first tip would be make sure your location is upfront and visible, right?
Absolutely.
Like people know where you're trying to sell to them from, right?
Definitely.
I know that like we put a lot of work into our websites, and it seems like it doesn't have like that immediate satisfaction, right? Like how long does it take for you to have some real results from SEO, like top, first page, top ranking?
So top ranking is kind of iffy there. It all depends on how much competition you have that's focused on that area. Let's, for example, say you're an insurance broker selling insurance. You have thousands of competitors, sorry. Whereas if you're a handyman or home improvement team, you're not competing for as much attention. So realistically on that level, you may have to go into a more paid strategy, such as Google Ads or something of that particular strategy in order to see top search results. However, if you're going at it as a small business with not a whole competition stream or anything, then you could probably see yourself in the top 5 within the first 90 days,
Yeah.
as long as you maintain consistency.
So you feel like 90 days doing it right and the correct way, you could see some results from that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And like you said, Google Ads, I mean, they're obviously going to take up the first results, and it works. Every time I click on an ad, it'll say like, it has like the URL slug will have like click, so I don't know. You can tell when it's an ad when you click on it. And I was telling Laura, I feel bamboozled. I feel like I got tricked each time I click on something, and it actually was an ad. But it actually it's useful if you target your ads the right way. But that's a whole other thing, Google Ads. It's not even it's almost not even relevant to what we're talking about today.
Absolutely.
But it is worth noting and worth discussing. So maybe if Reed has, fun today, maybe he'll come back and talk about Google Ads.
Absolutely.
So one of the big SEO words that I see a lot is keywords. So can you kind of explain what a keyword is?
Think of keywords more of a thesis on one of your papers, whether it be from college or even high school. You had to have a reference point of topics that would appeal to your argument. Keywords are imperative for each page and each blog in your website to tell the search engine or the human what your topic is all about.
Okay, so it's just being very specific on who you are and what you do.
Right.
And then those would be your main keywords. Okay. And then does it get kind of like broader? Do you get into like longer keywords, or is it good to like keep them short?
So concise is usually the best. It's all based off of what your target audience would be looking for. So there are tools out there, such as SEMrush, that will actually break down what even your competition is targeting. So that way it's not entirely rocket science. You're not just pointing out into the dark and trying to make your blog or page stand out all willy-nilly. It's definitely you have to go through this process, let the tool help you, and then you test it. It is never a one and done, I'm going to put it out of my mind and let it just keep working, because the algorithm changes.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people think, well, I've done the work, it's done.
Do you think that you need to blog to get good rankings on Google?
Absolutely. Blogging is the easiest way to stay consistent. Having something where you're doing something at least once a month is going to tell Google and Bing and Yahoo that you are trying to distribute trustworthy content for your audience.
Okay, so if you're blogging, make it I'm trying to think of the words. Value posts versus targeted posts. Do you think you should do like something that brings value? So Google's going to look for something that isn't just keyword vomit, right?
Right.
But do you think it's more important to do something that brings value to your audience, like clients potentially, or something that is more targeted towards getting your blog on Google's landing, like front pages? Do you know what I mean?
Quality is always going to beat quantity. Yes, you want to be consistent. However, providing something that's going to help someone else is always going to be king. For example, do-it-yourself projects that may not even entertain your company being the facilitator of that service. Having, for example, a landscape designer and talking about how to keep your lawn healthy by yourself is a great way of it's a blog that you have told Google, hey, here, look at me, I am trying to contribute to the community, but it is to help your potential client or your existing clients.
So basically, you want to use a blog to get people to trust you and go onto your website after they read your blog. Or I guess they're already on your website, but to go to explore your services after they read your helpful information that you've offered them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the purpose of a blog, right? Mm-hmm. Just to get people on your website?
To get people coming back to your website as well.
Okay.
Having that traffic that's not just direct or referral traffic, to have that traffic come back is actually the goal.
So like signing up for a newsletter or something,
right.
or signing up to be notified when you blog again.
Absolutely.
So you should have those calls to action on your blog posts, right?
Definitely.
That's something that is good to know. Like, I think it sounds easy, like you got to ask people if you want something from them. But I've been writing blog posts with no call to action this whole time.
Well, there are some strategies that you don't want to seem too salesman.
Yeah.
So at the same time, there are certain clients that I have the capability for people to comment and contribute towards the blog. And then there are those that I purposefully keep the comments from happening. There are reasons why you would want someone on a blog. Let's say you're a small business owner that doesn't necessarily have the time to create a blog once a month. It kind of may look a little bad if you have a newsletter, sign up for this newsletter that may or may not happen.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that you're ready to do that constant blog a month, don't even entertain that.
Because you don't want to like make a bad impression right away. Yeah, that's good to know.
Another hot topic word that I hear a lot, well, it's not really a word, it's called KPIs. Can you explain to us what those are?
KPIs stands for Key Performance Indicator. It is a term that you're probably, as a small business owner, you're not going to see. It's really on a much larger level. If you go to like a larger marketing firm, something like Allison South, which is local, they are going to throw those key terms more so out there because what they do are effective methods such as a SWOT analysis, which is your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They are going to have certain strategies that will appeal to more of a medium to a larger business infrastructure rather than something where you're just starting out, you're trying to work through all of these different strategies yourself. The likelihood of you coming up with that yourself or seeing it on Google, for example, is quite low unless you're going for being a digital strategist.
So when it comes to reading all of this stuff that we've put together, so like the back end of it, how do you measure the success of your SEO work?
When it comes down to measuring the success of a campaign, there are several ways about going about it. Google Tag Manager is actually a fantastic way of measuring the conversions that happen when someone is either clicking on your listing or clicking on a specific button on your website or using your contact form, that kind of thing. that's a way to measure the actual conversion value. I believe that your strongest KPI in general is your conversion value. That's a client or potential client expressing direct interest in whatever strategy you're trying to go with. Now, of course, there are metrics based off of how long a visitor stays on, which is your engagement, stays on a particular page rather, or their average session. Those are very important KPIs to note, because if your bounce rate is too high, that just means they are going to the website, staying there less than 5 seconds, and they are jumping off of the website. So there could be a performance issue. Your pages could be loading too slowly, or your content's not engaging enough, because you do not have long to capture the attention of your audience.
Yeah, as Molly said in our marketing episode, you have 2 seconds to capture the attention of whoever you're trying to, talk to, sell to, whatever. So is your website engaging enough to catch somebody's attention in 2 seconds? Because if you keep them longer than 2 seconds, then that's like a little mini win, right? Or like they stayed for 3 seconds. Okay, you're doing something right.
Well, the goal is for you to have the target audience to click on a button to convert. That is the number one goal at the end of the day. It doesn't matter whether they stayed on there for 2 minutes or 60 seconds, as long as they were able to capture what your campaign is about or your service is about and had the time to make a decision and click on that button. That's the goal.
Yeah, and depending on your website builder, you will add the Google tag in your builder, and they should have like an SEO and metrics section, right?
So depending on the particular environment, I believe that there are hundreds of builders out there. It all depends on really the content management system that you're on. With WordPress, you will tie in your Google Analytics through a particular way, through either a plugin such as Yoast or Google Site Kit. On Wix, I believe there is an integration as well. However, with Google Tag Manager, it is a little bit more rocket sciencey, because you can create a Google tag that just connects to that analytics script, to where you don't even have to touch anything. It's all based off of page views. But if you're going into Google Tag Manager, you're not necessarily dropping a code per tag. It's actually telling and teaching Google Tag Manager how your website functions, and you may have to add in something known as a class or ID onto your website that communicates to Google Tag Manager, but it can be a little rocket sciencey.
Yeah. What do you think? So for people who are listening, we have a newsletter that will get sent out after this episode goes live, and it will have some actionable steps from today's expert, Reed. And I think that it would be good for me to link kind of a basic like Google Analytics how-to or something like that. Do you think like Google Analytics is a good place to start tracking? And then if they want to do something like tag their website, like Google Tags and stuff, then maybe they should reach out to an expert for that.
Well, I actually have a couple of YouTube videos that would be perfect for that.
Perfect.
It wasn't written by me or anything. I over the years, I'm much more of a visual and auditory learner. So that has helped me quite a bit. There's also Google Academy. You can go through their built-in tutorials and become a Google certified expert. That would be your other avenue.
Okay, so in our newsletter, we're going to link you to Reed's YouTube videos, because that's a really convenient resource that he's taken the time to provide. So we'll link to that, and we'll also link to Google University, which that is a whole rabbit hole. You can learn so much for free from Google, in case you didn't know.
I love that they put all that out. It's amazing.
But it is a whole job.
Yeah.
Like it's not
You're
not
going
easy.
back to school when you get onto that website.
Yeah.
when it comes down to getting Google certified, whether or not you should or should not, that is up to debate. Realistically, as long as you understand the tools and everything, spending that extra 60 hours getting certified isn't necessarily going to make or break your business as long as you can create a good digital strategy.
Okay, and how do you keep up with your digital strategy when the algorithm changes every 5 minutes?
Well, it doesn't change every 5 minutes.
It just feels like it.
It feels like it does. Like, for example, 5 or 6 years ago, actually more or less a decade ago, you could get away with throwing as many keywords into your website for no rhyme or reason, and you would rank high on Google because you had specified enough keywords. That is an example of the algorithm changing, and that ramped out. It wasn't an immediate change that affected every website known to man. It was a change that happened in stages, and you, as the digital strategist, can see those penalties and you can act on those penalties utilizing things such as Google Analytics, but Google Console, Search Console. That is actually another tool that we have not even discussed. And that is your gold. That is what will tell you, unless you pay for another third-party toolkit such as SEMrush, that will tell you your core vitals on your website.
Okay, so that's how you can kind of determine what the algorithm isn't favoring anymore. As long as you're not like purposely doing something like keyword stuffing, then like, for example, if your pictures load too slow, then it will tell you that this is where your pictures aren't loading fast enough. Like I think it actually has like a section that says
Absolutely.
like load time or something like that. So it makes it really easy. I like Google Search Console. It's easy for me to use as somebody who doesn't know very much. I don't know what Laura uses, but yeah. And do you think, and it's free too, like it doesn't cost
Absolutely.
anything, except your time, a lot of time.
A lot of time.
Which should not be devalued, but I'm just saying it's not money. So yeah, that makes sense. And we don't have to worry about it changing as often as like the Instagram algorithm, for example. And there's people who like follow it and they can kind of, if you join like Facebook groups, they have people who keep up with Google's changes. Is that something that you keep up on as well?
I actually utilize a couple of toolkits that will automatically tell me when my site audit has come back with a negative result. And I actually set those to a weekly. A lot of people like to do a monthly, but the minute that something changes on one of my clients' websites, when it comes down to the algorithm, I want to be there and I want to assess it.
So something else that I was told the algorithm loves is links. So links to other websites and then back to your website that it shows that you're credible. Is that really something that actually helps backlinking?
So there are ways that it does help. There are also ways that are slowly changing with the change of the algorithm. Google actually noted this past year that it is based off of value. However, having external links does not necessarily do anything with your actual ranking. It has everything to do with your reference source. So if it is a blog that you're referencing an education website that is based off of what your topic is on, then that can, yes, be a great link. But if you are referring to just your best friend that owns a similar business and you are not doing it in a smart way, that does not give you hardly anything.
Okay. So the link just existing doesn't matter.
No.
Okay.
You have to build a digital strategy around it. Let's say, for example, you own a construction company and you are trying to bolster not only your audience, but your friend who owns the electrical business or plumbing business, and you want to write a blog that's based off of your business, but refers to his business, and he writes a blog that does the exact same thing. That type of handshake strategy is perfect. That is what is meant for these external links.
Okay.
Whereas internal links is based off of making your navigation throughout your website easier.
So I think the biggest word that keeps popping up is value. But we're talking about a computer code. We're talking about an algorithm finding value. How does an algorithm know if something is valuable? Is it just that's where my brain kind of falters.
Sure.
I'm like, so how do I know if this is actually a valuable thing, or am I just wasting my time? Because I don't speak algorithm in my brain. I don't know if it's gonna like it.
So there is a lot of hit or miss. That is why that one and done concept never applies, because a lot of it is experimentation. It is not always going to, we can't assume what the robot values, but we can assume what a human values. It's not always just in favor of the Google robot. We know that a pair of eyes are looking over this eventually, and the name of the game is to provide that value to the client rather than just that value to Google.
So like what people like your bounce rate and all this stuff, if it doesn't line up with what Google's algorithm is putting your website at, is that going to be something that maybe they would look twice at and be like, what's going on here?
You will be penalized if you do too many what are known as warnings versus notices on your site audit. If you do too many things that counter the algorithm, then yes, you will eventually be ignored. However, as long as you're looking at Google Search Console, again, I'm an SEMrush fan. I really like that toolkit. If you're keeping up with the audits and paying attention to what Google is saying that you are not doing effectively, and as long as you change that strategy, it is at the end of the day, the type of content that you have on your website should really be geared towards the potential client.
Okay.
It needs to be valuable for someone that actually has eyes versus something that is a robot.
Mm-hmm. So getting back to the people and not focusing so heavily on the algorithm. I think people get lost doing that, especially like on social media. It's what can I make that will trick the algorithm into liking me more?
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's kind of what Google is. I think Google started to notice is that everyone's trying to hack the algorithm. And instead of hacking it, you kind of have to go back to the people and be like, what do people actually want to see from me? And then you kind of line up with the algorithm because that's what it wants. It wants
Right.
people
Yeah.
to like it.
Definitely.
So, okay. That makes a lot of sense because we see it all the time, especially on social media. It's like, this is how you hack it. It's like hacking it, they're tired of you trying to hack it. So they're making it so if you try and hack it, it goes the opposite way.
Hacking it is a short-term solution. There are agencies out there, like we were talking about link building. There are agencies that sell referral links. And those are a very short-term, yes, you can be on the top of Google within 30 days. And then after your site gets crawled enough, and Google realizes all of these links are fake or that they are purchased links, then that is when you will slowly but surely be penalized to death. I had a client that I worked with for a short time where I found out that his main strategy was utilizing these services. And unfortunately, one of those sites got hacked and filled with malware, referring his website to porn sites.
Oh no.
Yes.
That's like worst case scenario.
So rule of thumb,
Yeah.
don't hack it.
Do not hack it.
Never
It
know
is
what's
a
gonna
short-term goal.
Oh, that's
I think like even social media has become very SEO. It's like TikTok has its own SEO, and people still think like it's become harder even on TikTok to rank for SEO. Like they have their own search, which is search engine optimization. Whenever you search something in TikTok, you're basically Googling. Like you're basically Googling within TikTok because it's become a verb now. It's almost like, okay, so you as an SEO expert and a social media manager, they need to have almost like similar knowledge to you on specific social media stuff. But do you feel like you share that knowledge, or do you think like you need a social media manager for social media SEO and the SEO expert for like Google SEO?
I believe that they are two different worlds that are colliding with each other.
Yes.
Simultaneously, I know all of these different things for your website, but I am not going to be able to keep up with the change needed for social media. A social media manager is imperative. It is a completely different skill set. It is actually more or less based off of content creation than anything.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the website is based on content creation in a way, but it's much slower paced, right? Like you don't
Absolutely.
have to post 7 times a week for your website for Google to be like, oh, I hate your website, right? Like you can post, like you said, 1 blog a month, keep everything up to date, make sure it runs good, and you're pretty good with Google, right?
Absolutely.
But Instagram, TikTok, they'll be like, who are you? What, like,
Yep.
you exist?
You pretty much have to be an all-day event.
Yes. So that's no fun. But now we're starting, I guess the point of the podcast is to show like if you're not good at everything or you feel like you're just like wearing too many hats, like it's because this is a whole other job. I think I say that every time we have an expert. Like this is a whole other job that you are also trying to do. And while you can handle some elements of it, if you want it done the best way, then you've got to outsource to somebody who this is their job. Just like if you want to hire a photographer, you have a camera phone, you could use your camera, but if you want like professional pictures and good quality, you hire a photographer. The same with an SEO expert or a marketer or whatever else industry.
Graphic designer.
Graphic designer, yeah. Or a branding person. Like you are not good at it and that's okay.
One note that I will say is that as a business owner, you are meant to wear many hats. That is your requirement as starting out for the first 5 to 7 years. You're just going to have to wear those hats, and that is the moment. That is your make or break moment. Are you going to be able to succeed as long as you can rotate those hats and maintain that presence?
You just listened to part 1 of our interview with Reed, our SEO expert. Join us next time for part 2, where we'll go more in depth on SEO and provide a detailed list of actionable steps that you can take to change your website's SEO performance. Don't forget to sign up for our email list, where you can get the actionable steps delivered straight to your email in a very easy to read format. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment for Reed, and let us know what questions you have about search engine optimization, and we'll be sure that he can come back and answer your questions.
And remember, while we aim to provide you with practical and knowledgeable advice, it's important to do your own research and consult with a professional before making any decisions that could impact your business.
The information we provide is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal, financial, or any other professional advice.
And with that, we want to thank you for tuning in to Clever Entrepreneurship. Until next time, keep building
And growing your business.